Okay, rulers, settle down. Ruler School is brought to you by Odyssey Games, where you can go to get singles for all your Force of Will and other trading card games, as well as these amazing patrons. Special thanks to guest lecturer member Vite Ramen. Thank you for your support. Class is in session.
Today it was great.
Hey there, rulers! Welcome back after a long week of Force of Will. But if you still have some questions, especially about all the new cards in the new set, you've come to the right place. It's Office Hours, your favorite ever live Force of Will podcast here on Ruler School. I am your host, DMO73, and I'm joined, as always, by the beautiful Mike Rance.
Oh, it's me first this time? How nice
It
of you.
is,
Wow.
it is,
oh my
it is.
goodness, I feel so loved.
And the worldly Paul Reisman.
Ooh, worldly.
Welcome to the world.
That's
how it works.
Zowaldo.
There,
anyway.
Zowaldo. As we are going to potentially be joined by some guests here throughout the hour. I don't know when or if they'll show up, but if they do, awesome. So you're in for a treat there. That being said, I do want to say, hope you're enjoying yourself. And if you haven't already considered subscribing to the channel and supporting us as a member to pick up your curriculum and enroll here at Ruler School, you can click that little join button down below, get access to wonderful emotes and other perks. Also, be sure to check out our Discord server, which you can join below. That thing has been popping off the past few days. We've had like 15 to 20 new members join in the past like 4 days. It's been great. Great conversation, great deck list sharing, great ways to play. We also host a casual Saturday like webcam day every Saturday, and that has been an absolute blast. And then, of course, if you haven't still need more product from the 7th, I do believe Odyssey Games, our official sponsor, does still have product available. You can check the link in the description below to go get some more boxes. So, new set came out, boys.
Yeah, I'm still gonna go. I'm picking up my boxes tomorrow because of
Delays.
a weekend of delays and also a weekend of some garbage going on with my life.
Oh.
So, but very excited because it's locals night tomorrow, which means I'm going to brew on the fly. So hopefully I'm going to be coming up with even more jank I can share with the community, because I'm going to have to look at cards in my set and be like, oh, I wonder why that never got used, and then figure out why.
Yeah.
So
yeah. And we're looking forward to locals this week as well, because man, 25 new rulers essentially, and it is Jank City.
Oh yeah,
Jank City.
Jank City. Welcome to the world of Jank City. What we're talking about tonight is we're just going to be sharing ideas and things that we've experienced in terms of looking at the cards, what we've enjoyed kind of experimenting with, or what we've kind of toolboxed around with, some cards that we think from the new set that are, sleepers or things to watch out for, as well as, older cards to maybe look back at again. We're just having a good time, because I think now's it's fresh. We're not close enough to mini that I think we do any kind of like potential meta analysis, because we got 3 weeks. We got plenty of time.
I don't even think there's a meta analysis at this point. Like, I don't think people have done enough testing to really say, like,
not even close.
Yeah, Carlina Belial's the only deck that you should play. I'm not going to say that. I'm thinking it. I'm going to say it.
So yeah, we're very excited to be able to do our little casual local stream this Wednesday, as well as get a recording in for you guys. I know that Paul and I, so we'll start it off. This is a good place to kind of have our conversation, and I'm going to kick it to Paul first. Paul, for this Wednesday, for our recording, what did you decide to start with from this set?
So the first ruler I pulled was Beatrice.
Ooh.
Yeah, Fate knows that I really love the Divine Comedy, so Beatrice was my first ruler.
Not Dante from the Devil May Cry series.
Not Dante from the Devil May Cry series. Not that. And I said, I really like Belial as a ruler, just in general. And then I started combing through the set, and I noticed there's this little mermaid that says get +6/+6 flying and barrier if you're 2,000 or less. And I'm like, seems like a good card.
Prideful Mermaid. Prideful Mermaid.
Let's make a deck. So we're going to be putting that on the channel. Like, once I get my stuff together.
Yeah.
And we're good to go.
That's going to be really good. I am going to be...
Bear, what are you playing, man?
People know me... People who have known me for a long time known that in terms of my love of like a certain thematic idea outside of fairy tales has been the time goddesses and the RFG stuff. I literally have been obsessed with them since they were first designed, and then the promo variants that were very expensive came out, and I managed to track down a full playset of all four, or of all of them, and I'm all about it. Brandon Bremont joining us
That's a
here.
Brandon
Jumping
Bremont
out.
right there.
That is a Brandon Bremont joining us in. So
Going. The Victoria's here too.
Hey,
Oh
Tori!
my God! Hey, champion here. What
Yeah.
up?
So
We were just talking about Beatrice.
when we suddenly when we had a ruler that said, "Hey, I have a pay 0, remove 7 cards from the game immediately, and also pump stuff up," suddenly I was like, yes, time goddesses. So we didn't want to do a Belial mirror for the first week on the channel, and Paul claimed Belial first. So I have been goofing around with a Stemma Belial or a Stemma Asmodeus, and like I have been absolutely having a blast.
I believe they call that deck SS Turbo, but I don't know. That might just be me.
The idea of the deck being pay 2 win the game, because that's really all that's the Satan ruler says is get your opponent's life down to 0, pay 2, win the game. That's the whole point.
That's about the best use of Satan.
That's
turns
pretty much the best use of Satan. Has been an absolute blast, and it also uses some of my favorite cards that I think people need to be paying attention to, which is in the terms of, especially for Asmodeus, you have like the Allosaurus, the 2-drop 10/10, grab anything, in terms of versatility from grabbing stuff. Memory of Disappearance, which is a really effective like 1-cost, again, essentially turns Asmodeus's God's Art into draw 7 cards, which is a little bit neat, dirty.
Neat.
And then also Light of Raisin Revive, which is just like, I've always loved that card. It had its heyday for a while when we were playing Adam Psychart. It was a really cool card when we played Adam Psychart stuff. Victoria will know. And now with Asmodeus, it's just like, oh hey, you know what costs 3? Virgil.
Light of Raisin Revive has a couple of good uses in this format, given all the different remove from game stuff, but perhaps even more importantly is that Carlina taps exactly for Light of Raisin Revive, and she really loves 2-cost quick cast things in her deck so she can like play 2 cards in a turn cycle. And so it's been really great for that deck too.
So we that's what we've been playing around with in terms of Paul and I. We're very excited to record it this weekend. Mike still has to get cards, so he's janking it up. But
the only thing that I've been thinking of right now is the fact that I found the meanest combination of cards, and I really love it. Just like, you just go turn 1, Ray, you castle Beatrice into the grave, and then you go to your opponent's turn, you tap your Carlina, you just dance with the spirits of them. They can't play the game. Go back to your turn. First stone, pass. Next turn, Beatrice's castle, bring back the Resonator Silmeria. Oops, that's also a Dance of Spirits. You can't play the game anymore. And then you just kind of, rinse and repeat a little bit. And oops, your opponent's a Violet, so you just got OTK'd. But that's fine. Who cares? Your opponent can't play the game. We're okay.
And just cancels it. Your opponent's reasonable.
Listen, man, we don't talk about reasonable decks here. We talk about garbage.
Tonight's podcast is Jank City, so when we're talking about garbage, we're talking about Mike Grant's decks. Pretty much.
I'm just gonna put 4 Dracula into Asmodeus. I'm gonna tap, sack the Dracula. It comes back. Everything's got counters. Dracula's got 2 counters. He's gonna have swiftness. Let's just smack our opponent for 1 billion damage. I'm having a good time. I don't know about you guys, but I'm having a great time, really.
That sounds like a great time. You gotta love it.
Bremont, what about you? When you've been, I know obviously you guys are going a little bit more competitively focused than the 3 of us currently with getting ready.
You'd
for
really
Minnesota.
think so.
But
I've seen the group chats. I know the garbage.
But what have been some cards that you've been like particularly interested in from the new set? I'm gonna wait until he focuses back up. Cards that you've been like particularly interested in the new set, as well as maybe like older cards that you find yourself revisiting to go along with all these new kind of jank options we have.
So it's kind of funny that the best card in format is a card that we've had for now 3 sets and barely saw any play. The battle comes to an end, and then we got that card in set 1, and it saw fringe sideboard play and a little bit of mainboard play, like as niche counters, and now it is the most single defining card in the format. So that's kind of crazy.
Plus the boy.
the
what?
boy.
Plus the boy. Plus Gary and the boy.
boy.
Battle
Oh
comes.
yeah, very, very insane. Well, that's a new card, so you'd hope
Yeah.
that some new cards are good. Yeah,
New
that's
cards are
more of a
terrible.
competitive edge, though. You're talking about like janky stuff.
Yeah. Has there been anything that you've been goofing around with?
So it's so funny because this format, because Belial really just says like all your traditional degenerate stuff doesn't work anymore. So now you have to choose like weirder degenerate stuff, or more grindy degenerate stuff. A lot of the stuff that used to be really janky because it would turn on in the late game, which was just a joke in Force of Will, now is a real thing. So we're talking about things like Aliceris, Invader of God's City, plus Death Scythe, and like going late, like get a Death Scythe with me in my graveyard, exile my entire graveyard with the Death Scythe. Now Aliceris costs 2 and tutors any card in the deck, plus Classical Belial. So when the Aliceris dies, you get the Aliceris back. Loop with Death Scythe, play Aliceris, get any card back. And it's so funny because like I said that last set, and you'd be like, ha, can you imagine getting that late? And then Belial's like, we're going that late.
Yeah.
So what looks like jank actually ends up being somewhat competitive, and so you get to see a lot of these kind of nonsense value engines really being fun. And so we're looking forward to see how that goes, and I'm also looking forward to going OOX in the next tournament. So we'll see.
Well, all right, like, can we also talk about more things about jank and more on like this like Carlina train? Aramaki and Togusa, man, that card's fire.
Yeah,
Like,
Carlina just
straight
makes these
fire.
cards, makes all these like dive cards so good again. And
Yeah.
it's like not all these dive cards, really just that one and the bodysuit one. But
And
Oh, yeah,
also
the
the
battle
seven,
is really
also the 7-drop, like being able to cast it very effectively early sometimes. Just like,
if you like using the
maybe.
Welser, yeah, you can play that.
Yeah,
card.
exactly.
yeah, you gotta,
that's
yeah.
what I'm saying.
Again, matchup dependent, right? But like for sure. But that's
Yo, you
the-
ever
that's
heard of Battle Comes to an End? What about the 3-drop that
But that's-
Playing
removes
Welser
one thing
in
from the deck?
non-6 stage decks count as jank because if that's jank, then we also have that going on.
Well, Welser in non-6 stage decks.
In
Oh, you know
just
something crazy?
Well, just
Wait.
the resonator half.
Wait, are you guys ready for the craziest jank ever? Okay, so
Sure.
hear me out. Carlina is atrociously bad at doing
Alright.
the. Okay, no, we're not going to say that. But Battle Comes to an End and then is really terrible in the Ragnarok matchups. What do? You side those out into the 3-drop Motoko, and you play that. You got the 6/6 body, and you do basically the same thing that you were just doing with the Battle Comes to an End. Easy game, easy life. Let's go, boys.
Specifically Ragnarok. So the only thing you're getting is a 6/6 body against Ragnarok. Is that the joke? Okay.
Yes.
So,
If we're talking
so here's the
jank, I have
question.
to.
So here's the
Bodies
question,
matter.
and I'd be curious for your perspective on this, Fremont. So, with the introduction of the new tags, right? With the introduction of the new tags, the fact of like you're saying, Belial kind of naturally taking the early degenerate crap, as we've said, and said, hey, you can't really do this anymore. Like we got to go to more like grindy late game, grindy engines and everything else. With that being the case, like 6 sages, we can say specifically Feith Mooge, but we can talk about like value engine 6 sages, right?
So Faith Moosh, yeah.
Do they get? I mean, like Feith Almerius is the same, like final stance Almerius, that kind of idea, right? Does New Fallen put enough pressure on 6 sages that they get diminished to the point of other rulers suddenly being able to also rise into the grind? Like other rulers that could potentially play that grindy game with Belial don't have to fear the 6 sage gatekeep nearly as much because of the influence of Fallen. Because that's what I'm not really curious about that. So
question. So you're talking about like the blue, I forget her name, but the blue treasures ruler from the original one that kind of like
not necessarily any particular ruler in general, but I'm talking about like these 3 categories of like New Fallen tag, 6 sage tag, other singleton, right? So before this, it was just like this is this skew, but then does the presence of Fallen help even out the 6 sages to the point that this stuff kind of also rises up in terms of prevalence?
Let me put words in your mouth,
Sure.
and you can tell me if this isn't what you said. But there was this kind of baseline of rulers that were being oppressed by 6 sages, and now there's this Fallen tag that oppresses a lot of what the 6 sages were doing, so the things that were underneath it can be okay again. Is that kind of what you're getting?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's the blue one, the Celesta, the treasure ruler.
Mm-hmm.
I think that she just particularly has a pretty good Carlina matchup, and so like I think that ruler could be okay if you really just want to be hunting Belial Carlinas, but maybe, babe, maybe. My beautiful GP winning girlfriend just asked about Lilius, and I hate to break her heart, but no, that one is still
Yeah,
terrible.
I think Belial tells you to sit down and have a nice day.
Yeah, I think that there's things that could come out from under it. The other kind of fun thing, I know I just spoiled that Welser's playable in other 6 Sage decks, but if 6 Sage decks aren't around, then there's less Welser around, and with less Welser around, Regalia can resolve again, and with Regalia resolving again, maybe the Kings can be okay again, specifically Rezard. And so we'll kind of see if that happens, and so we'll see. And this is what I was saying earlier when I was alluding to how you'd think I was being more competitive with testing and not playing Jank. Not true. Like a lot of things.
Well, that's the other thing
that's
the other thing to me that's the other thing that's very interesting to me in terms of you mentioned the Regalia decks, and I kind of mentioned this to Paul before, is like the evolution of the fact that the format is kind of slowing down and we have to get kind of naturally grindy, creates the evidence of like the biggest problem that we saw from Regalia decks was Welser, right? And now we have a Welser counter that is playable in King's Rulers, right? So like the idea of like we have a little bit more defensibility of Regalia. So like you said, I'm not going to outright say, bring a Regalia deck to Minnesota, but I think what you bring up is an interesting point of like start to look at, what does that look like with potentially less Welser in the format? Does that create space for the Regalia decks and everything else? So yeah, it's cool to hear that you have a similar kind of thought idea that I do.
It definitely it makes the Regalia decks okay again. Like previously, if you brought a Regalia deck to a Welser format, you're just asking to lose. Like you can't just spend 2 mana sorcery speed while they represent green,
Yeah.
And it's like, and now you kind of can again. Still not like super. Like again, the other problem, as I said this earlier too, is that battle comes to an end is always a threat. So if you're a Regalia deck and a battle comes to an end, or your Regalia, you kind of feel silly.
Yeah.
But like
Raise and Revive.
Yeah, Raise and Revive is an option that counters that. You could also just be a deck that has some other plan, which is not too big of an ask. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot going on. I'm really excited to try and test a lot of different stuff. Me and Ian have been playing hours of Force Will every day. There's a lot to do. There's a lot to do.
Well, Brandon, I'm gonna say to Victoria's point about Lilius, I think if Lilius switches to like okay, hear me out. Listen, hear me out. Listen. Hear me out. If it switches to the Percival version, flips it, and holds up instant speed damage spells, Belial can't have that many God's Arts. I mean, really.
Except that they'll just like resolve a Belial's rule, and then they'll have unchaseable God's Arts, and you'll cry.
I mean, yeah, but whatever. Like, who cares about that when you could just play red, subscribe to the Kyron Lucas school, and just hit your opponent?
Who cares about them winning? I want to win!
Red, which is, like, so annoying. If she judged it, like... No, I know, but, like...
New Aeon, welcome to the chat.
I haven't very little off this format, to be honest. I've written very little off. Yeah. I see a lot of decks that people are experimenting with that are like going late to beat Belial, and then all the traditional fast decks that are beating the go late decks, and then those fast decks losing to Belial. And so it's kind of like a lot of like, can you find something that beats all of these things? If you can, you're ahead of me. Good, congratulations. I haven't done it yet, but and maybe I will eventually. But
I haven't heard anything. I'm tuned in, and I won't spoil it, what people have been looking at, obviously, because that would be disrespectful to people who talk to me. But like, I haven't heard anything yet that's found it. Everyone's pretty much on the same board of what you're talking about, Fremont. Of like, what am I playing?
Self-playing a Belial with a late game engine. That's smart, and I think that's probably the first place to look for the treasure. But I'm still, we're not there yet. We'll still figure it out.
It's just. The consistent thing that I've been hearing is that people have been able to build a deck. That deck beats all the decks from that deck beats the deck from the day before, or the 2 or 3 decks from the days before, the known decks. And then the next day, someone comes along and has the deck to beat that deck. Like
it's almost like we have this checklist, right? Like my brother, one of my brothers comes up with a deck. We have to go down this checklist. Like, does it beat Classic Violet? Does it beat New Wolfgang? Does it beat Carlina Belial? Does it beat Belial Dante like value grinding? Does it beat this? Does it beat that? And it's like nothing ever checks all the boxes.
Yeah,
And
which
it's
is
like-
great. Which for me is like going into Minnesota, like I'm so pumped because I also do want to say that one of the things that I'm very excited about for Minnesota is we are going to have a
Does it beat Keith Moose? Sorry,
Does
I
it-
need
yeah.
to throw that one on there. I don't know why I didn't say that. That's a big one. Anyway.
We are going to have a deck profile station during the stream from Minnesota. So, because we're going to have a full stream crew, we are going to be going through looking for fun jank builds from people, and we are going to be giving those players the opportunity to showcase their decks and talk about them live in between rounds during the GP, which is something that's new, and I'm very excited to bring to the table for this next event. So,
I expect you'll have no shortage of good feature matches to put on stream.
yeah,
Jamie.
it's gonna be. I'm very like. I have some ideas, right, of like what I'm thinking people are going to bring. But as I was saying before to the chat of the stream crew, one, we just gave the Americans 25 new rulers.
And they're still going to play red.
And completely changed what current rulers have to do. So that's going to make them change, right? Two, it's completely Wild West meta in the form of there have been no tournaments fully flushed out, so there's nothing to go grind off of. And three, like, as we said before, it's US players. So, like, players just play what they want. So it's just, oh my gosh, it's going to be so much variety. I'm very excited. And there is going to be the Day 2 Wanderer tournament as well, which will be interesting. We might, based on how it goes, because we're not leaving on Sunday night, we might stream some of that Wanderer tournament too.
And by that you mean stream a cube tournament.
We did just update the cube with like 16 new cards, so like there's that.
Excellent.
A full new set to play with Wanderer, and Bremont's still toting cube.
What's Wanderer?
It's the best
Cube is
of
just fixed Wanderer.
It's the best of FOW from Grim to now.
I didn't have to. The company did it themselves. Anyway.
So I'm interested. Play what they want. It usually equates to red. Red's bad. Don't play base red in this format. You will lose to Belial. I do wanna say that like I've been trying the games that I've been playing against people, like I don't want to say it's not as decision tree heavy, because I think it is still very decision tree heavy, as we've seen before. But, like, I find myself looking at cards from a very different perspective and, like, valuing cards for, like, incremental value way more than I did in the previous format. Especially when building Asmodeus, because Asmodeus is 60 cards, so, like, you're jamming a bunch of crap in there, right? But, like, this idea of... It feels like the idea of the burst finish, like 40-0 in one move. Like it doesn't feel like you can rely on that, or that you should be building towards that.
Well, now it's 20-0, so whatever.
But like,
20-0.
but you also like I don't think you can I just don't think you can build to that anymore. And from what I'm like, how I'm viewing cards, or like how I'm viewing games that I'm playing, I'm finding that, like, hey, I suddenly have an 8/8 body that's stuck and got a good value. I'm gonna just, like, chip with it once. And, like, that feels good. Or I even played a couple of games where, you know, Astema naturally just wants to die quickly. But I've also found myself being like, hey, you know what? I think I'm just gonna Judgment Astema on 2, kill one thing, and then, like, next turn just use her as a precision removal to generate will. So that I can, like, kind of go off that way, right? Like, and I'm using cards differently than I would when I was first looking at the set. And, like, that to me has been really, really fun. The jankness of it, of just like, hey, I'm going to try to use this card this way. And it works out, and it feels fun, and I like it. I enjoy it. 12-12 Precision First Strike Bane is pretty cool.
I still think, like, one of the funniest things that I like to hear people talk about is, like, this, like, Carlina Astima opener that's like sort of reliable, where you just drop your hand, gods up for the Inferno next turn, and just nuke your opponent's first turn hand, and you're just sitting there against your opponent like, all right, I guess we're doing this now, huh? Like, that's just funny to me. Like, I really love that concept a lot.
Or the secret duel in the moonlight.
All right.
First turn kill.
Yeah, that one's dumb.
You can't be Carlina with that one, but that is a funny one.
You can be, but it's just way worse. Technically, there is a play line where it works and it's terrible. Don't do it.
Explain. How do you do it with Carlina?
Okay, so here's how you can do this with Carlina, and here's why it's bad and don't do it. So, we're going second.
Oh no.
We're Carlina Belial specifically, so that it can actually kill our opponent. We hit 6 Sage Stone on 1.
Right.
In response to the trigger, we float green-black with Carlina and recover.
Okay.
We make red with the 6 Sage Stone, and then we use the green-black to Judgment Carlina, and then we can either tap her then or tap her after we flip to produce red-black. We are now on Carlina's flip side with this 5 floating will.
Right.
You use the white to Charlotte's transformation magic, Carlina. You use the red to Secret Duel in the Moonlight yourself down to 0 life after using Belial's God's Art so you can't lose. And then you use the red-black to Inferno your opponent down to 0 life.
I see.
It's bad, don't do it. Because you can kill Carlina in response to the battle, or you can kill Carlina in response to the Secret Duel in the Moonlight, and therefore you get locked out of being able to play the Inferno that turn, and then you're at 0 life and you cry because you immediately lose the game. You can
second.
You can kill the Carlina in response to the Charlotte's magic, right? If the Charlotte's magic resolves, then you're good to go.
You can do it in response to the Secret Duel, because if you Carlina's, I confirmed this with some judges. So if you kill the Carlina in response to the Secret Duel, then Carlina will die, and her once per turn restriction goes back into effect on her ruler side. So is
that true? Because I think loses all abilities stays on the J ruler side. Because I know Gradius, if it kills the ruler, they still don't have abilities. So are you sure that's how that works?
That is what I have been told. That is what I've been told the ruling it will be.
If there's a J ruler Belial and you Baja with the atoms and the Belial dies, it still doesn't have that ability on the front side. So I don't think that's how that works, but I'm not certain.
Either way, you could also just Garion the transformation magic or kill the.
Oh yeah, there's any number of ways.
Yeah, there's so many ways to do it. It's stupid. Don't do it, and requires specifically 3 cards in hand and you to hit a very specific
and the coin, right?
And a coin.
1, 2 to judge, 2 for the thing.
You need exactly 6 will. It's 6 will. You need exactly 6.
To hit a 6 Sage Stone on 1.
Yeah. But it's jank, and you could technically FTK someone. Don't. Look at me.
Love to hear it.
Don't.
You can also FTK them in Carlina with way less things than that by just, playing a resistance into Ouroboros, make your opponent 2,000, and then you drop the dive card that gives swiftness for the FTK.
That's true.
Like, that's 3 cards, and you don't have judgment.
You could also do that. And
you don't have to be going second to do it, because anytime a combo starts with if you're going second, I immediately invalidate it.
And then cry because your opponent is playing Belial. Just don't take damage from the Ouroboros.
Doesn't matter if they take the damage from the Ouroboros. They're at 2,000 anyway. I literally target myself. I don't care.
Set yourself down to $2,000.
Easy game, easy life. Let's go.
Seems good.
Yeah, I'm very excited. I'm also excited to go back and explore older rulers too. I think there's a world. I was talking with Ryan Miles earlier today about how, because of what the format is looking like it potentially is, and because of 6 Sages potentially not being relevant, to go back to our previous conversation, suddenly the idea of a green-blue base Olivia, just being able to have Sparklefish on 1 is back to being potentially relevant. Because like if she calls a green stone, she just has Sparklefish available. which before
Which is a
wasn't
good card.
super relevant because like the early cancel deck was just like dominated by Welser, but suddenly you're entering a format where you're going to see more decks that aren't necessarily playing Welser. So then having this 7/7 body stop your opponent's turn one tempo play has some legs again, right? So I'll be very interested to see the social psychology of how the Fallen Angels influence what gets brought and what's experimented with in the meta for sure.
Yeah, the problem is that Carlina is just so good against cancel spell decks that aren't specifically Welser. And so like this Olivia deck that has like Sparklefish and stuff, like when they're gonna get a castle of Carlina, you're gonna try and cancel it, they're gonna God's Art their Carlina, and then nothing's gonna be cancelable anymore, and then
So
your
you think
deck's bad.
you think Castle comes in, sees play in Carlina?
Oh yes, I do. I very much do think that.
Okay,
I think that card is very good.
cool.
Mm.
I think it is also very good. I haven't seen many people talking about it
Yep,
or
the other thing that
experimenting
you
with
have
it,
to
so-
keep in mind is that there are just the Chirons of the world that are going to show up with belligerent Baja, just ignoring the fact that Belial exists, and so your deck still can't just be ignorant of the fact that
Yeah.
Violet is a deck. Like there's gonna be 7 at least real Violets in that tournament. It's like
just like straight Baja violence.
you're
People
showing
still-
up. Their
People
opponents
still like the big
flip over
woman.
Belial. They're gonna be like, "Can I read that card?" They're gonna read Belial. They're gonna give it back to you. Play their Violet.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to see what gets played. I'm excited to play for it with it myself. I've been, like I said, I've been jamming some games with this Asmodeus Time Goddesses deck. And like Asmodeus is I will give him credit. Asmodeus is got more to him than I initially thought. The Cradles also are very fun cards to play around with. I've really been enjoying that idea of like having these kind of like you're playing it cantrips, and then you're just kind of like sitting on the effect for a bit until you need it. So it suddenly turns Asmodeus into like this utility engine, which I think has been pretty cool. And it's also a protection. Like you can use his God's Art for like protection or aggression or draw power or like turning on stuff like the Time Goddesses. Like
Yeah.
what I'm noticing now actually playing with the cards is there is so much more to them in terms of actual application than I think we first thought when we first looked at them. And that's really fun for me that the set is giving me more once I have cards in my hand than it was when I could even see the full set. And that to me is what I've really enjoyed about it so far, is that it's I don't just know out like with the 6 Sages decks and even with the ADW sets, right? Like we kind of knew what the decks were going to be even before the cards actually like got into our hands, right? There was like minor experimentation, but really it was like we knew what we were building. And we knew what the cards were going to be doing. And with this set it's been like, "Oh, okay. I guess I can use it this way. Like, oh, I can use this card like this. Oh, I could use this card like this and do this with it." Like, so I'm constantly discovering new things, and so the set has captured my attention a lot more than when I was just looking at spoilers, which is great.
I think another big thing that's probably going to start popping up at this point, just knowing how like a lot of the 6 Sages, and even from what I've been seeing, the Fallen Angel decks don't seem to have a great matchup versus like Wolfgang. Like
too.
just doing like a really like a slower game plan versus Wolfgang. Like as the Wolfgang player, like the way a lot of Wolfgangs used to be was just like, all right, cool. I'm gonna drop a good card turn 1. Gonna get the name out. Gonna get the name out. Gonna get the name out. Terminus you. Now you have a card that's better than Terminus as a win condition, which is literally just the boon that just is like insane. Which is just like an insanely good.
The anti God's Art boon. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, the Mana Dork rock,
The one.
the one that you
Yeah.
pull from deck after using
Well,
using
like,
Mary
so here's
Heart
the
to
thing.
Heart Talk to draw a card,
Well, so
get things for free each turn, and then cheat mana continually for the rest of the game.
Yeah, which I think people don't recognize is maybe because they didn't look at what Wolfgang was doing. But if you actually look at Residents of the Black Forest, like Wolfgang can pretty consistently have 3 unique demonic worlds at the end of their second turn. And I don't think people really literally all you need is a 1-cost demonic world and residence in hand. And suddenly at the end of their second turn, Wolfgang can have 3 demonic worlds, which before in a world of Turbo Violet wasn't that great because you tap out to do it. But now one of those is a ramp. And you can possibly go even further. And
Here's
also
another thing you can do now
Archeon
with,
exists.
Here's another thing you can start doing with Wolfgang. You can drop your Sigurd engrave, Sigurd out, get the boon from the deck, tap the boon. You can still grace your Sigurd, flash it out, bring it back in, get another one of those, and you just kind of go off from there.
That's
And there's
gross.
just kind of some... Yeah, why not?
Sigurd, Wolfgang.
How are you getting the Sigurd in the graveyard?
Rhea, I guess.
Rhea, yeah. That's
How many
sorry.
not Wolfgang cards can you put in a Wolfgang deck?
I put at least 15 in the one that I used in the online GP. It wasn't good because it was a 50-card deck, but whatever.
Turn 1 Magnus Beast into Linda and Wall. You always win.
So mandatory Wolfgang cards, right, are Heart to Hearts, the Residence.
Yep.
You probably would not be comfortable with less than 8 ways to kill a Black Witch. So then from there, like how many...
That's 4 Gary on. Yeah, I got you.
Like the demonic worlds that you need from there, like there's like quite a few of them. You need the terminuses, you need the boons.
You say terminuses, but technically speaking, you only need 2 of the edition and like 1 or 2 terminus in main board.
Because you can't pull from hand. You have to play more than one unless you draw it and feel like an idiot.
So it's like a 2 and a 2, and then 1 of the Swiftness Fallen Angel that just came out. Because you don't have to rely on.
If you're only playing 1 of that Swiftness one, then you are just asking to draw it and just asking to lose.
That's why I played 50 cards. Anyway, next question. I still drew it every time, but that's fine.
Astral Lens. Hi everyone. So does making your Jade Ruler's Astral like a Stemma or Wolfgang still keep all of its effects in play? Yes. So at the very beginning of Force of Will's history, if your Jade Ruler died, your Jade Ruler was just dead. It didn't have any effects. The way it is now, all that works is it flips back over to its ruler side and it loses the ability to judgment again. That's the only thing that happens when your Jade Ruler dies. Yep, good question though.
Let's talk about the fact that also if you're playing the Sigurd version of the deck.
No, we're not talking about Sigurd Wolfgang. We're not talking about it. Stop. Stop.
Because you get a board full of zombies and they all got bane.
1 second.
Anyway.
1 second. I'm gonna mute Mike for a second, and Mike is now muted. Nobody can hear.
Really quick.
Nobody can hear Mike anymore. I do want to say real quick to Logan's point of Magnus Beast is showing up even more and more in things that I'm seeing. Like that card, man. Ugh.
Carlina sure has breathed life into 3 drops.
Yes. Yes, for sure. Okay, I'm bringing Mike back. Mike is back. But also, what did you want to say, Bremont?
I just on the topic, just a funny anecdote.
Yeah.
We're talking about Astral Rulers. My brother had this great idea for a Brad Virgil deck where you just like flip Brad Virgil, do all that great stuff. And then we realized that make your ruler Astral actually gets around imperishables. It actually does permanently kill the Brad, which is very, very tragic.
Yes, because
that's one jank deck that does not work.
That's one jank deck that doesn't work. So yeah, because technically making it Astral means permanently killing it. And imperishable is the idea of if it dies, you don't make it Astral. So
yeah, I don't know why they couldn't just like have foreseen Virgil coming and just make Brad say this ruler can't be Astral or something like that. Because like honestly, it's not that broken. It's just fun, and you just ruined that for us. So good going, Force Will.
Hey, you can do it. You can do it once, I guess, and then feel real bad about it. Maybe that's what Brad. Maybe that's what Brad needed. He needed Virgil. Like he needed to die permanently.
He needed a lot more than Virgil, but okay.
Let the man play a 3-drop. Let the man play a 3-drop.
Virgil's not a 3-drop. Come on now.
Hey man, Virgil's a 3-drop, which means Raveston Revive can grab it.
True. Relevant.
Yeah.
Does Castle Beatrice nullify Remnant? I'm pretty sure it doesn't.
It does not. So Mega Drive,
this
this is a good question.
No.
So the way Remnant works is it goes from grave to chase to RFG. Beatrice specifically says that cards in your graveyard cannot be removed from game by effects. And so, 1, it's a game state action in terms of moving to moving. And 2, because it's not getting removed from the game, it's going from grave to chase, then to RFG. It gets around Beatrice Castling. It's also the reason why Electo and Electo doesn't Electo gets around Castle of Beatrice because it's removing for cost, as opposed to like removing by the effect. I do believe that Castle of Beatrice does. I don't know why you would put your own Castle of Beatrice into play if you're playing a Violet deck, but it does prevent your atoms from being RFG'd because that's being removed by the effect. It's not being removed as cost.
It doesn't. So one quick memory way that you can remember this is if it occurs after the colon, it's an effect, or after the arrow, it's an effect. Before the colon or before the arrow, it's a cost. So you can still remove atoms for Baja. You can still remove atoms for
Okay.
the burn one, whatever it's
Yeah,
called.
Firestorm.
Yeah.
Firestorm, yeah. You can still do all of that. What you cannot do is RFG with like Academy, because that's after the colon. So like just look at where the colon or the arrow is. The other side of that is the effect. And that's what Castle of Beatrice stops.
Yeah, Castle of Beatrice stops that. Also, Castle of Beatrice, man. Let's recycle resonators forever. I love it.
Yeah, it's very good in the late game.
Yeah, card is
And
very
it goes nuts.
I do want to say that like I'm excited to play against a fully flushed out null deck from Paul this week. Bye Mike. Because
Bye, Mike. Nulled.
I talked nulled. I talked about this before, that it feels like very similarly to Seal. Don't get me wrong, Seal, the Brad deck is not competitively viable, but what they did was they explored what if we made Seal an actual archetype as opposed to what if we just slapped the word Seal on a bunch of cards. A null now coming from the pre-release also feels very similar treatment in the terms of like we took an old idea that was just kind of text we slapped on cards without really a like theming to it in terms of how it functions, and now we're revisiting it to make it an actual like archetype. And having played it in limited and how good it felt to play null, like how synergistic it felt, how like actually naturally flowed into itself and felt fine, I'm very excited to play against a full actual null deck before, because Dino Null was not a deck. Like it wasn't.
No.
It was This
is a 6/6 precision, I guess.
It was hey, we know you discarded all of your cards to make Scarlet work, so we'll make it so your top decks don't suck as bad. That was what Null was before, and that was gross. Now it's like, oh hey, this is an archetype that just plays from the grave, and that feels very, very cool. Brad is viable if you're the only one who shows up. Hey man, I have gone 3-0 at locals with Brad, so I will say that. The man's a locals contender.
Soft flex there, Jeremy.
So no one was ready for it, but I wasn't the only one who showed up.
Wow.
If you convince your judge to give you the Judge, my opponent, our match started 3 minutes ago and my opponent is not at the table. Can I have a game in? Yeah, now we have the wall. Should I convince, we haven't had much luck motivating people to help us get the Brad emote unlocked. Should I try to have Tess make a wall emote?
Whoa! I still want Bitey Lady emote.
We gotta get to the next emote level first. We got 21 more members to go before we hit that next emote. So
Carlina just battle ends to your wall. But then what if you battle ends to an end, battle comes to an end, your opponent's battle comes to an end, and then you play your wall, and then you're just metagaming.
So here's the thing. This idea of like, I really want to see in a mirror of Carlina's, someone's like, turn one battle comes to an end. Tap Carlina, Tachyon.
No way. No
way. I will clone your battle comes to an end with a Tachyon.
I'll hit then my Tachyon will hit your battle comes to an end. Yours will hit my battle comes to an end.
Yes.
It's an infinite cycle.
Yeah. You just
Carlina on Carlina violence.
Yeah.
Yep. No, all you gotta do is just, bounce your opponent's battle comes to an end with Welser, and then you're playing wall in, I don't know, Feasting Moonshard, whatever, it's fine. I'm gonna pull the wall out of the deck with my Persia, and nobody's gonna stop me.
Yeah, we've been having this conversation. We've been having this conversation in the Discord over the past couple days, and it has been about that, like, it's a little bit of a previous conversation in terms of European versus American mindset, in terms of how we view the game or how we view decisions by the company or card strength and tech choices and everything else. And I think, a second, bless me. I think, am I gonna sneeze again? Maybe no. Okay. I think that there's this space where there are certainly cards in this set, or introductions of cards in this set, or even just cards in this cluster that could have been designed differently to not have nearly as much of a meta warping impact as they have. And the meta warping impact at the competitive level is certainly something that should be noted as, like, I don't think it needed to be this way. It could have been different, so we can raise our concerns about it or everything else. That being said, I do hear a lot of, like I said before, the current, like Bremont said, no one has, it's only been a week, but also from everyone that I'm hearing, no one has even come close to a deck that checks all the boxes yet. So, like, take that with a grain of salt. But also, I think what's important, I think what's important to note is that, like, the biggest thing when I look at these new cards, when I look at this new set, that I want to remind everyone of, whether you're getting ready for Minnesota or not, is try all of FOW. Like, use this is a wonderful set for an opportunity to try all of FOW, not just how can I break FOW. Because I think this set, to me, the thing that I've gotten the most out of it is that we've kind of been building to this since Alice Origins Cluster, this idea of every deck that you can kind of come up with, you can make function and feel good to play. Now, how competitively viable is that deck? Metas exist in every trading card game. That's something that you have to recognize, that you can build a deck and it's just not going to be able to win at top tables, right? You have to be able to accept that. That's just card games. But I think this set is a really great kind of capstone to this progress we've been making of, we have 2 full clusters of cards that the jank that you can build to have it function. Because old FOW, it was either garbage, felt terrible to even try to play, or top tier competitive. There was no in between. It was very spike or nothing. This is not, we are now in 2 full clusters of cards that is the farthest from the truth in terms of just actually playing FOW with friends or at locals or anything else. And so the thing that I want to encourage, and the reason why I'm happy to have all these perspectives, is, like, don't be afraid to throw stuff at the wall, because I think you'll be surprised with how fun it feels to try and play and goof around with, even if it doesn't end up being the most competitive thing you've ever seen. Because hot dang, there's some goofy stuff going around here. Like, do I think that Keeper of the Future Skuld is a good competitive card? Absolutely not.
Yes.
Absolutely not. Do I think that it is hilarious to, on turn 2, play a Skuld as Modius Godsart, suddenly have her be a 17/17 with swiftness, go into my opponent's face? Hilarious. Yes, absolutely. Let's do it. Like, I'm for it. You know, like, there's so much silliness to be had. Don't be so mature that, like, force yourself to be so mature that you miss out on the fun of what we currently have in FOW. Because at the end of the day, this is a trading card game with big, very busty anime ladies and silly demons and walls and memes and a Brad and, you know, like, it is a card game, you know, just like,
I love how Brad was just mentioned casually.
Yeah,
It's great.
Brad. He is the meme, right? Like, don't be afraid to stamp your passport here in Jank City and spend some time here, because I think you're gonna have a really good time. I know I'm probably preaching to the choir with who the chat is, but, like, For those of you who are watching in post, because we get a lot of people who watch this in post, like, don't be afraid to come spend some time in Jank City, because you're going to have a blast. And it makes me very excited for what the future of Jank City looks like.
We don't bite.
We don't. That's true. Well, Bremont might, but
Unless you want us to.
Bremont will bring Kaguya, the bunny, and Kaguya will bite you.
That's true.
Ruler schools,
Kaguya
we
would
bite with consent.
Kaguya would never bite anyone. Okay, listen. First of all, Kaguya's a saint. We stand the good bunny.
Stand the good bunny. Tori's probably gonna go get Kaguya right now.
Yeah, please.
In 1 mana 17/17 swiftness. That sounds really good compared to my 1 mana 40/40 flying swiftness precision pierce that blanks and kills your board.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's
Yeah.
fun. Yeah, I'm very excited. We're very excited. There's some good meme potential here in this set. Don't sleep on Wall. Don't sleep on Raise and Revive. Don't sleep on Magnus Guardian Beast. Don't sleep on Jank. I am very excited to see what I am very excited to hear what next cluster is going to be potentially. I've heard some rumblings. I've heard some rumblings that I think people will enjoy. But hopefully we get that announcement soon. I imagine
I definitely like some rumblings.
When's the crossover with Genshin Impact set coming?
Hey man, if that's what the mini set is next set, and they're like, hey, Zhao's a ruler, I'm like, done. I need Zhao.
When Lisa Ruler coming out?
Look, the Thunder Archon comes out in 24 hours. It's okay. I'm gonna be okay. Also, yeah, Memory of Disappearance. Like I said, don't sleep on that card too, because like the RFG is a real thing again, for sure.
I see your Memory of Disappearance and raise you Aliceris, Invader of God City,
yes,
which is a Memory of Disappearance, but can also get brought back with Beatrice Castle.
Yes, and is a 10/10.
That too.
Yeah, for 2. That
like a body.
It's a body. Why not both?
Body.
Playing Asmodeus, why not both? Playing 60 cards, right? Also, yeah, you should just remember.
Release.
You should also just remember that Satan, the card, is literally just pay 2 black, win the game. It doesn't have any other text on it. Get your opponent down to 0. Pay 2 blacks. Get your opponent to 0 life. Pay 2 black. Win the game. That's what Satan says.
When you're asked, Emma. Yeah.
Yeah. Doesn't have any.
That's been among the greater disappointments of the set. But we should really thank Force Wilco because they've really given us a strong Christian message, which is that turning to Satan is almost always a mistake.
Yeah.
Hey, there we go.
We got there.
Yeah,
when you talk about preaching to the choir, that's definitely how you do it.
You should never activate Satan. This is my competitive. We've been talking about Jank. Let me give you a real competitive advice. You should never become Satan unless you are winning the game becoming Satan. It is almost always a mistake.
Unless it is pay 2 black, win the game immediately.
Unless they are literally at 0 and you need to not have a step. Like, you should become Satan to get rid of a stemma. That is the only reason. Becoming Satan for any other reason is a mistake. I promise. Like, it is egregious how awful that ruler is.
Yeah, correct.
New forceful messaging. Do not let Satan into your hearts.
Yep,
that's true.
Yep. Paul approved.
Thank God.
Jeremy seconded. So to that point, I do want to say thank you all so much for joining us tonight. This has been a wonderful conversation. Derek said he would play an Estemma even if it said he couldn't win the game. Man, it's a profit. Yeah, that man better be playing Estemma at Minnesota. Otherwise, he's going to be in trouble.
It's not unplayable. I think Estemma's not unplayable.
Oh, yeah. I flipped her on 2 and just had a value engine for the next few turns, killing whatever my opponent decided to play. It felt very fun.
Yep.
Let me just grade you, sir.
We're going to be... so scheduled for this week, for everybody just to know, we have a Wanderer feature match coming up this week with Fox versus Wolfgang 1 Incarnate Cthulhu's. That'll be very, very fun. I have that edited. Pretty cool to go back and explore those rulers, and explore a new ruler in an old light. And then stream on Wednesday night, casual stream for Foul Wednesday. We'll do deck profiles for the Wanderer stuff later this week. The deck profiles for later this week will also be sure to talk about what we would kind of include from this new set, or like ideas of what we would want to possibly include coming from this new set. You can kind of like build off of it. because we didn't have this set yet. And then, yeah, we'll be back next week with the results of Paul and I's match and more chat about stuff as we get ready for Mini. So thank you all so much for watching. Again, if we made you smile, if we made you laugh, you want to consider picking up your syllabus here and joining us on Ruler School, you can click that join button down below to go and support the channel, help us get all kinds of cool stuff, as well as get you some cool perks. And if not, I hope you enjoyed it and consider clicking that subscribe button and checking out Odyssey Games if you still need product. And as always, I am DMO73, and I've been joined by Mike Rance.
Hello, friends. Goodbye, friends.
Paul Reisman.
Goodbye, friends. Hello, friends.
And our wonderful special guest, Brandon Bremont.
I was hoping Tori could catch the bunny in time, but unfortunately.
And Tori and Kaguya in the background saying, class dismissed. Have a good night, everybody.
Night.